Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. I'm Marina Cusick. I'm an urban strategist for Penrith City Council. Today I'll be taking you through Council's draft local housing strategy. The strategy is on public exhibition from 5th of April to the 10th of May. We're very keen to get your feedback on the draft. You can find the draft strategy on the Your Say Penrith website. Also on that website, you can complete an online survey. And of course, you can also write us a submission via post or email. And we're holding a series of drop-in sessions across the local government area. You'll find the details of those drop-in sessions on the website too. So first of all, I'll touch on why we're preparing a local housing strategy. Under the Greater Sydney Region Plan and the Western City District Plan, all metropolitan councils are required to prepare a housing strategy. Council's Community Plan contains a commitment to plan for our future growth, and the housing strategy is a significant component of doing just that. Council's Local Strategic Planning Statement, or LSPS, also contains a commitment to prepare a local housing strategy. There was an earlier draft of the local housing strategy exhibited with the LSPS in 2019. The housing strategy wasn't finalised at that time for a number of reasons, but primarily the state government released a population projection in late 2019, which was much higher than anticipated by the draft strategy. The Sydney Metro station locations were still not known at that time. And of course, the COVID pandemic has meant taking a relook at population trends and migration. So what we've tried to do in the latest version is factor all those things in. The local housing strategy is a 20-year plan starting in 2016. The 2016 starting date is a direction that came from state government and is set down in the district plan. So we're now 5 years into that strategy timeframe. It's quite good because what we've been able to do in the latest draft is provide some commentary around how we're tracking, what the last 5 years has looked like and what we might expect from the next 15 years. One of the central challenges of this revised draft housing strategy was to make sense of the population projections and the effects of COVID and figure out, well, what is our population going to be in 2036? I want to give you a bit of a picture of population and how thinking has evolved over the last few years. The initial draft of the local housing strategy exhibited in late 2019 was based on the ID community profile. It expected around 258,000 people in 2036. You'll see that shown by the red line in the graph. That population estimate was pretty similar to the state government's population projection of 2016. The state government's 2016 projection is shown by the blue line. But just after the initial draft local housing strategy was exhibited, the state government revised its population projections. This projection is shown by the green line in the graph. There was a major discrepancy between this projection, the green line, and their projection of 3 years earlier, the blue line. With a discrepancy of around 80,000 more people, that would equate to around 29,000 dwellings. To put that figure in perspective, the suburb of Glenmore Park has around 8,000 dwellings at present. So we're talking about 3.5 Glenmore Parks. It does represent a substantial increase in the state government's projections. So last year, Council engaged Hill PDA to do a piece of work to help inform our revised draft of the housing strategy. We also had RemPlan doing a separate piece of work on population forecasts. Now, based on all that work, our best estimate, shown by the purple line in the graph, is that we now expect around 289,000 people in 2036. While this is our best estimate, the revised draft of the housing strategy actually looks at 3 scenarios. So the blue, purple and green lines. The rationale being that we make sure we could meet a higher demand for housing if the need were to arise in the future. The state government are expected to release their next population projection at the end of this year, and we'll be able to make an assessment then whether our estimate is in line with the state government's thinking. The key findings in the latest draft of the local housing strategy is that we expect a population of around 289,000 people by 2036. That would lead to a demand for around 36,000 additional dwellings by 2036. Most of that new housing will be focused in the key growth areas as shown on the map. And remember that we're already 5 years into the strategy timeframe, so we've had around 8,000 new dwellings already delivered. What this tells us is that we are tracking well on housing delivery. While we expect there will be demand for 36,000 dwellings, the strategy indicates that there is theoretical capacity for a higher figure if required. We expect the housing strategy to be an iterative document and regularly reviewed based on the latest data and projects underway. The release of census data and the state government's next population projection will no doubt shed more light on future housing demand. I'm sure you'll all appreciate that a housing strategy is not just about the numbers. Housing is really about people. The draft strategy contains a housing vision, as well as these 9 housing objectives. Part of our community engagement is asking our community and stakeholders whether they believe we've gotten these objectives right. There are also 4 priorities that weave their way through the entire strategy. For example, the first priority, housing location, is about locating new housing in the key growth areas, particularly around rail and metro stations. In doing so, we can help protect employment and rural lands. Housing diversity is about supporting more medium and high density development. Also, housing for specific groups like seniors, students, people with disabilities. Council's doing a great deal of work around housing affordability. The strategy supports the delivery of more affordable rental housing. And the housing design character and resilience theme ties in with other council strategies and work around things like improving tree canopy coverage, reducing urban heat, sustainability and resilience. It's also where development controls and contribution plans come into play. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I hope that I've provided a good overview of Council's draft local housing strategy. After the public exhibition period, all feedback will be reviewed and we'll present those findings to the elected council. They'll be asked to consider revisions to the strategy if warranted. If the strategy is adopted by the elected council, the document will then be submitted to the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment for approval. I'll stress again that we are keen to get our community's feedback on the strategy, so please head to the Your Say website, take the survey or send us a submission. Any inquiries can be directed to the email address on the screen. Thank you very much.